What happens when the weight of an entire franchise suddenly shifts onto one player's shoulders? That is the uncomfortable but fascinating question surrounding Jaylen Brown right now, after years of being the lightning-fast, explosive counterpart. To Jayson Tatum, Brown finds himself staring at an NBA season unlike any other, one filled with uncertainty, doubt, and at the same time, the opportunity of a lifetime. The Boston Celtics are no strangers to reinvention. They have survived countless transitions, from the end of the Big Three era to the retooling around Tatum and Brown, but the current moment feels different. This time, it is not about building around two young stars. It is about whether one man, Jaylen Brown, can carry the torch alone. Tatum's devastating Achilles injury ripped away the safety net that had defined Boston's modern identity, and the departures of Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and even Luke Cornett stripped away depth and balance. The roster now looks thinner, hungrier, and far more dependent on Brown's every move. So here is the burning question. Can Brown truly become the face of the franchise? Not just in theory, but in the most unforgiving reality of the NBA. Critics, like Grant Hughes of Bleacher Report, point to the numbers. Brown's scoring dipped last season, his handle remains suspect, and his three-point shot has never been automatic. Yet, reducing Brown's game to those flaws misses the bigger picture. Boston's front office clearly believes in him, not just as a scorer, but as a leader. Someone capable of reshaping his game under pressure. Brown has never been the clear alpha, but sometimes players only evolve when there is no other choice. The question is, will the crucible of this season break him or forge him into something even greater? History has a way of punishing doubt. Remember when skeptics insisted Giannis Antetokounmpo could never win a championship without a reliable jumper? Or when critics said Kawhi Leonard was too quiet, too robotic to become a true Finals MVP? Both rewrote their narratives by seizing the exact kind of moment Brown now faces. What if this is Brown's chance to silence years of whispers that he is better suited as a second option? Then there is the matter of health. Brown's off-season knee surgery looms like a shadow, a reminder that every step he takes this year comes with risk. Will he regain his full explosiveness, the very trademark that makes him so unique? If he does, we could see a player who blends strength, athleticism, and defensive intensity in ways few wings in the league can match. If he does not, the Celtics season could feel painfully long. But here is where the story takes a hopeful turn. Boston may not look as star-studded on paper, yet this stripped-down roster forces something fans have been waiting years to see. Brown, without a safety net. It is a test of leadership, endurance, and mentality. He has already shown flashes of what he can be when the lights burn brightest. His Finals MVP in 2024 was no accident. His ability to defend the league's deadliest scorers was no fluke. What if the version of Jaylen Brown we are about to witness is not the one critics fear, but the one Celtics fans have secretly hoped for? And let's not forget, adversity has always been Boston's fuel. From Bill Russell's battles in the AEU 60s to Paul Pierce, dragging a depleted roster into respectability in the early 2000s, the Celtics' history is built on stars who thrived when everything seemed stacked against them. Could Brown become the next in that lineage, the player who proves everyone wrong by sheer will? The whispers of doubt may grow louder, but there is another side to this story, a side where Brown takes on the challenge, raises his game, and drags Boston into contention anyway. It may not look like the dominant powerhouse Celtics fans enjoyed 2 seasons ago, but it could be something even more dramatic, the birth of a new leader forged in chaos. So here is the real curiosity. Is this the beginning of a decline, as some outsiders predict? Or the moment where Jaylen Brown finally transforms from co-star into a franchise cornerstone? The answer will not just shape his legacy, it could redefine the entire trajectory of the Celtics for years to come. NBA Shockwave. Jaylen Brown's father arrested in Las Vegas. But what does this mean for the Celtics star? What happens when the personal life of an NBA star collides with headlines darker than anything seen on the court? That is the storm surrounding Jaylen Brown today after news broke that his father, Quenton Marselles Brown, was arrested in Las Vegas on charges of attempted murder. The story does not just grab attention, it shakes the narrative around one of Boston's most important players.
Go ahead and say and spell your first and last name for me.
Arnold Weinstock, Weinstock.
And who are you representing?
We are representing Mr. Quenton Marselles Brown.
And what do you have to say about the allegations against him?
I only know what he has told me and what the police reports claim and what the newspaper reports claim. Certainly we're going to be investigating a lot of it. But everything I know, and I've known Mr. Brown for quite some time, I do not believe that he initiated anything, and he is telling me that everything that occurred was him trying to defend himself after he was struck.
You brought up something that wasn't in the arrest report, that the victim in this situation had a gun that he hit Marselles over the head with. Did he tell you that?
That was what he advised me, yes.
And what do you think about the $300,000 bail that was set today?
I think it's excessive, but, I understand the state's concern at this time, although I do not believe that type of bail is necessary, but I believe he will be able to post it, and hopefully he should be out in the next day or two.
Anything that you would like the public to know?
It'll all be litigated in court.
Players at a time when he already carries the franchise on his back. The details are dramatic. Reports say the incident began with something as small as a parking lot argument, a door-ding dispute that spiraled into violence. Witnesses describe a confrontation between Marselles and a youth football coach that ended with the coach being stabbed multiple times, leaving him in critical condition. Police records suggest Marselles approached with a sharp object and struck from behind, while his lawyer insists it was self-defense after he was allegedly threatened. But behind the shocking arrest lies a far more complex story. Marselles is not just a man caught in an altercation. He is a towering figure, literally 7 feet tall, with a long history in professional boxing, a former WBU world champion, a man who once represented the sport with pride, and more importantly, a father who shaped Jaylen Brown's mentality. He taught resilience, discipline, and the idea that no dream is too big to chase. In 2016, he came out of retirement in his late 40s to prove to his sons that persistence matters. He publicly said he wanted Jaylen to see that quitting was never an option. That is where this story takes on another layer. For Celtics fans, the question is not only about the crime itself, it is about the ripple effect on Jaylen Brown. How does a player who already faces the burden of becoming Boston's #1 option now carry the weight of seeing his father in national headlines for something this severe? Will it distract him, break him down, or could it ignite something even stronger inside him? History shows that athletes often transform personal pain into on-court fire. Think of Kobe Bryant in 2003, dealing with the most turbulent moment of his life yet delivering legendary performances. Or LeBron James, who has repeatedly turned adversity into fuel for dominance. Could this shocking incident serve as a turning point where Jaylen channels every ounce of emotion into proving that nothing, on or off the court, can derail him? There is also the curiosity of legacy. Jaylen has always been described as cerebral, thoughtful, and unshaken by the noise of media storms. But never before has the noise been this close to home. The image of his father in handcuffs could haunt him, yet it could also push him to carve his own path more defiantly than ever, to remind the world that while his father's story is making headlines, Jaylen's own story is far from finished. And here lies the hope for Celtics fans. Adversity often creates greatness. With Jayson Tatum sidelined and a roster that has been stripped down, Boston needs a version of Jaylen Brown that is relentless and unapologetically dominant. The arrest of his father could be seen as a distraction, but what if it becomes the spark that ignites his leadership? What if, instead of breaking under pressure, Brown steps into the season with a fire that nobody saw coming? This is not just about a crime in Las Vegas. It is about what comes next. Will Jaylen Brown be consumed by the weight of his father's arrest? Or will this be the very challenge that pushes him into the role Celtics fans have waited years to see? The answer is not written yet, but one thing is certain. the 2025-26 season now carries a drama far beyond basketball, and all eyes will be on Jaylen Brown to see how he writes the next chapter. Anfernee Simons in Boston, a risky gamble or the secret weapon nobody saw coming? How long does it take for a new player to change the conversation around a franchise? For Anfernee Simons, it has been less than 2 months in Boston, and already the debate is heating up. Was Portland right to let him go? Or is Boston about to uncover something the league is not ready for? The story began on June 23rd, when the Celtics pulled the trigger on a move that sent Simons to Boston in what many saw as a financial shuffle rather than a basketball decision. Analysts were quick to declare that the Celtics had no long-term interest in keeping him, that Simons was simply a piece in the larger puzzle of managing the salary cap after Jayson Tatum's devastating Achilles injury changed the trajectory of the roster. Yet, here is where curiosity takes over. If Boston truly never wanted him, why has there been hesitation to move him immediately? And why are reports emerging that the front office is at least curious to see what he can do in green? Simons is far from a one-dimensional player. He is a proven scorer, capable of putting up 20 points a night without breaking rhythm, a dangerous shooter from deep, and a surprisingly efficient playmaker when given control of the offense. In Portland, his assist-to-turnover ratio quietly led the roster, a statistic that rarely makes headlines but reveals a guard who values possession. Critics highlight his defensive shortcomings. Yet Boston has historically been one of the few franchises that can hide and even improve guards on that end of the floor. Remember how Isaiah Thomas, considered a liability defensively, became part of one of the most exciting runs in Celtics history? What if Simons finds the same protective system and culture here? Doubters argue that he is caught between roles, not quite a lead guard, but too small to slide into the two full-time. That concern is real, but Boston has experimented with positional flexibility for years. From Marcus Smart to Derek White to Drew Holiday, the Celtics have thrived with guards who defy labels. Simons may not be the defensive stopper those names were, but he brings something they lacked: relentless offensive gravity. His presence forces defenses to stretch, creating the kind of spacing Boston will desperately need without Tatum on the high floor. Then there is the contract question. Simons is on an expiring deal, which scares away many teams that would have to commit not once but twice by trading assets and then offering an extension. Yet this is exactly where Boston's position becomes fascinating. For them, the risk is lower, the upside greater. If Simons flourishes, they can lock him into a new role as part of the future. If he does not, his contract clears space that allows Boston to pivot toward bigger moves. Either way, the Celtics win. Here is the twist few are talking about. Portland may believe they were right to move on, but Boston has positioned itself to test whether Simons is simply a volume scorer or a weapon waiting for the right system. The Celtics have a way of turning castoffs into critical contributors. Think of how Al Horford revived his career when many thought he was finished. Think of how Grant Williams became a playoff X-factor when nobody outside Boston saw it coming. Could Simons be next on that list? Fans should also remember that the Celtics thrive in chaos. Every time the narrative says Boston is finished, the team finds a way to reinvent itself. Tatum's injury may have forced this roster into unfamiliar territory, but it has also opened doors. A player like Simons, free of the weight of expectation, could be exactly the kind of surprise that keeps Boston relevant. So, was Portland right to cut ties? Perhaps. But the more interesting question is whether Boston, almost by accident, stumbled upon a piece that could redefine the outlook of an uncertain season. Sometimes, the moves that look purely financial end up rewriting a team's story. The NBA has seen it before, and Celtics fans have lived it before. Now the league waits to see if Anfernee Simons becomes the next unexpected chapter in Boston's relentless pursuit of banners. The Celtics quietly move on from Torrey Craig. But what does this silence really mean? Why would a franchise with championship DNA willingly part ways with a proven 3-and-D veteran without so much as a press release? That is the mystery surrounding the quiet exit of Torrey Craig, a player whose name will never dominate headlines, but whose role is often critical in playoff basketball. On the surface, it looks like a simple cost-cutting move, part of Boston's dramatic roster reshaping after Jayson Tatum's devastating Achilles injury. Yet beneath that surface lies a bigger question. Did the Celtics let go of Craig because they had to, or because they see something more intriguing waiting in the wings? The decision was made without fanfare, without a goodbye message, simply absorbed into the chaos of the offseason. Craig, an 8-year NBA veteran with a history of hitting threes and defending multiple positions, did not return, and no major outlet framed it as a loss. But silence often hides strategy. Boston's front office has rarely been about sentiment. They see 2 or 3 seasons ahead, and letting Craig walk may reveal how confident they are in their younger core. Critics will point to his numbers in Boston: 35% from the field, under 30% from deep, a stark drop from the near 40% he had shot in Phoenix and Chicago. They will argue that defenses no longer respected his shot, that he became a ghost offensively. But is that the whole story? Every player has stretches where the ball refuses to drop. What cannot be ignored is that Craig still defended, still rebounded, still executed the gritty possessions that coaches love in playoff battles. So why would Boston move on? Here comes the curiosity gap. Boston is not simply trimming salary. They are shifting identity. By choosing not to bring back Craig, Al Horford, and even Luke Cornett, the Celtics are signaling that this so-called gap year will not be wasted. They are betting on youth, versatility, and upside, rather than veteran placeholders. That is not a sign of decline, but of long-term positioning. It suggests that Brad Stevens and his staff believe younger wings like Jordan Walsh, or even a hidden rotation piece, can do what Craig once did, but with more energy and growth potential. And what about Craig himself? Around the league, front offices value defense, size, and experience. Yet Craig remains unsigned. That silence tells its own story. It may not just be Boston doubting him. The NBA may collectively see him as closer to the end than the beginning. If that is the case, Boston's decision looks less like a gamble and more like foresight. For Celtics fans, this should not be read as loss, but as an opportunity. Removing Craig opens rotation minutes for players who must develop now that Tatum is out. It creates the chance for unexpected breakthroughs. History tells us that in Boston, such opportunities often lead to surprises. Few predicted Grant Williams' playoff explosion in 2022. Few imagined Derek White becoming a near all-star level guard after arriving in what seemed like a small deal. Who will seize that same kind of moment this year? That is the intrigue. So, while the departure of Torrey Craig may seem insignificant on the surface, it could end up symbolizing something larger: a team recalibrating, testing the boundaries of its depth, and forcing younger talent into the fire. Craig may land somewhere else as a late-season veteran pickup, but in Boston, his role has already been reassigned to the future. The real story is not about Craig at all. It is about what his absence unlocks. And if Celtics history has taught us anything, it is that quiet decisions sometimes carry the loudest impact when the games truly matter.